Y'all better sit down for this one, because if your name is Sean Diddy Combs, this right here might be the moment your entire empire finally snaps. After the sentence, after the meltdown, after the lawyers turned their backs, Diddy just got hit with the harshest probation terms we've ever seen handed to a celebrity of his level. We're talking total control, financial lockdown, random searches, forced rehab, and a lifetime of monitoring. This isn't freedom. This is surveillance disguised as mercy, and the wild part? Sources say he's losing it behind closed doors. But here's the real story, the conditions, the fallout, and why insiders are calling this the slow-motion end of Diddy's dynasty. Stay locked in, because by the end of this video, you'll see exactly why these new terms might finish what prison started. Before we dive in, I just want to say thank you, genuinely. We're closing in on 2,000 subscribers, and that's all because of you. Every comment, every like, every share, you're the reason Fame Insight keeps growing. So if you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and help us push to 10K strong. Let's get into it. Let's start right at the top, because what's happening here isn't just a set of probation terms. It's a blueprint for control. According to official filings, Diddy's probation will stretch for 5 long years after his prison sentence ends. And these aren't the kind of terms you can coast through. This is the government saying, we don't trust you unsupervised for a single day. He'll be under constant financial surveillance, meaning his probation officer has the right to request his full bank statements, credit history, and any transaction they feel looks unusual. That means every wire, every bag of cash, every company expense he tries to move is open for inspection. And if one transfer doesn't match up, they can pull him back into court fast. And that's not the end of it. He's required to stay in mandatory rehab and therapy programs, with random drug tests on demand. At any hour, any day, they can show up, knock on the door, and test him on the spot. No warning, no delay. Sources close to his legal circle say that's what's making him unravel the most, because the control doesn't stop when he leaves the building. Probation officers will have full access to his phone, laptop, emails, and even his cloud storage. Anything that connects to him digitally, they can open it, they can search it, they can flag it. Now, if you're wondering, can it really be that strict for someone that powerful? Yes, because these aren't typical probation conditions. These were crafted for someone the system believes can manipulate influence, money, and power. This is meant to box him in completely. And just when you think it couldn't get worse, well, it does. Now let's talk about the part that's keeping Diddy up at night, the money. Because this probation doesn't just limit his movement, it cuts directly into his financial veins. Every dollar he touches from now on is traceable. The probation team can flag any new credit line, loan, or cash transfer that doesn't match his official records. And if that sounds invasive, that's because it is, by design. Insiders say the government wanted to shut down his ability to operate in the gray zone. No more secret payouts, no hush money, no mysterious consulting fees. Every financial interaction has to go through approved, traceable channels. You want to pay an assistant? They'll see it. You want to wire money to a business partner? They'll ask who, why, and what for. This right here is what's breaking him down mentally, because for decades, money was Diddy's weapon. He could make problems disappear with a signature. But now, every signature might bring another investigation. He's being forced to live by the same rules he spent years bending. And it's not just about control. It's about humiliation. Remember, this is a man who built his image on power, privacy, and exclusivity. Now he's got government eyes on every move he makes, every car he drives, every property he touches, every private jet request. It all gets logged, tracked, and approved. So when reports say he's furious with his legal team, this is why. He thought probation would be freedom. Instead, it's a cage with an open door but cameras on every wall. And trust me, the deeper you look, the worse it gets. Because this next part doesn't just limit his money, it limits who he can even speak to. Now here's where things get personal. Because it's not just about what Diddy can spend, it's about who he can even stand next to. His probation terms state clearly, no contact with any of his victims, no contact with any known felons, and no association with anyone involved in criminal activity. That alone wipes out half his old network. Think about what that means. The entourage, gone. The bodyguards, the party promoters, the fixers, the ones who've been around him for decades, all off limits. Even some of his so-called industry friends could fall under that category. One wrong DM, one private call traced through his phone logs, and he's looking at a probation violation. And the wild part, the probation team doesn't have to take his word for anything. They can check his phone, his call logs, his location data, and even messages stored on cloud servers. Diddy can't hide behind privacy anymore. He's literally under digital surveillance. Sources say this restriction has him completely isolated. He's reportedly spending long stretches in silence, barely taking calls, not because he's meditating or changing, but because he's terrified of triggering a violation. Even casual contact could send him back to jail. And this is the irony. After all those years controlling who people could talk to, who they could see, who they could date, now Diddy's the one living under that same control. But this next part is even worse. because it shows just how deep the court wants to go into his private world, and it's something even Diddy's millions can't protect him from. Let's break down the next layer of control, because what the court did here is turn Diddy's entire world into a monitored zone. His mansion, his studio, his office, even his car, all of it is now subject to search at any time without warning. That means if a probation officer gets even a hint of suspicion, they can walk right into any property tied to his name and start looking through drawers, devices, and data. Phones, laptops, hard drives, tablets, they all count. Cloud storage too, even private vaults. If it connects to him, they have access, and this is what's shaking him to his core. Imagine living in luxury but knowing that at any moment, your doors could open to law enforcement, your digital history could be combed through line by line. This is surveillance wrapped in legal authority, and Diddy's never had to play by rules this tight. People close to him say he's tried to negotiate around the searches, hoping to at least limit access to personal or family areas, but the court didn't budge. The terms are absolute. If you're on probation under the Mann Act, privacy isn't a right, it's a privilege, and he doesn't have it anymore. What makes it even more intense is that every inspection creates a new record. So if they find something even slightly questionable, an unregistered device, a hidden account, anything, it goes straight into the system, and one red flag is all it takes to pull him right back into custody. So when insiders say he's been paranoid, pacing, and checking every message before he sends it, that's not exaggeration, it's reality. Diddy's mansion might be built like a fortress, but now it's a fortress the government holds the keys to. But we're not done yet, because what comes next shows that this isn't just legal punishment, it's personal, it's psychological. Now let's talk about the part that's breaking Diddy down from the inside, the mandatory rehabilitation and mental health programs. Because these aren't optional, and they're not for show. The court made it crystal clear. If he wants to stay out, he has to check in. Every single week, Diddy must attend outpatient treatment programs for substance abuse, anger management, and mental evaluation. The sessions are approved and monitored by the court, not by Diddy's private team. That means no hand-picked therapists, no high-end wellness retreats, no spin for public image. This time, he has to sit down like any other offender and answer real questions. And here's the kicker. These programs can randomly drug test him, anytime, anywhere. Miss a session, fail a test, even skip a check-in, and it's a violation. One slip, and he's back behind bars. That's how serious this is. People close to the case say the court specifically added these terms after seeing his history of control and aggression. They wanted to make sure that rehabilitation wasn't just paperwork. It's forced accountability. And if Diddy's history has taught us anything, it's that control is everything to him. So to have professionals questioning him, correcting him, and reporting his progress, that's his personal nightmare. And honestly, this is what makes probation harder than prison. In jail, he knew the limits. Now every day is a test, and the cameras never turn off. But this next part might be the most brutal of all, because even if Diddy somehow keeps it together mentally, financially, and emotionally, the one thing he can't escape is who's watching him. Now let's get into the people who actually hold Diddy's future in their hands, the probation officers. These aren't your average officers checking boxes and collecting signatures. These are trained federal supervisors assigned to high-risk, high-profile offenders. And for the next 5 years, they'll practically live in Diddy's shadow. Their power? Immense. They can show up unannounced, demand records, question his behavior, or even seize his devices. If they believe for 1 second that Diddy is violating his terms, doesn't matter if it's a text, a meeting, or an unexplained bank transfer, they can file a report to the judge and request immediate detention. No press conference, no warning, no negotiation, just gone. Insiders are saying that's what has him most rattled. Not the jail cell, not the sentence, but this quiet power that follows him everywhere. He's not dealing with one judge. He's dealing with a network of people who monitor, verify, and record every step he takes. And here's the twist. These officers don't care who he is. No celebrity privilege, no music legacy, no business empire matters here. To them, he's just another offender with a long list of rules to follow. And when you're used to being untouchable, that kind of power imbalance hits different. It's why those close to him say he's changed his tone completely. Less arrogance, more anxiety. He's reportedly trying to stay invisible, minimizing appearances, skipping calls, and avoiding confrontation. But that's the thing. With this kind of supervision, you can't hide for long. Because every move he makes is being cross-checked with his financials, his location data, and his digital footprint. And the craziest part, that's not even the full picture yet. Because what's coming next proves this probation sentence isn't just punishment, it's strategy. Let's peel this back further. Because what Diddy's dealing with isn't just probation, it's a strategic setup designed to expose anyone who thinks they're smarter than the system. See, this kind of post-sentence structure isn't random. The terms are written to create pressure points, psychological and logistical traps. Every condition is connected to another, so when you try to bend one rule, you end up breaking 3 more without realizing it. It's how high-profile cases are quietly locked down without ever needing another trial. For example, Diddy's forced to report every new financial transaction, but the moment he forgets, delays, or tries to hide one, that becomes a violation of probation, which can lead to a search order. That search could then uncover new evidence, digital or physical, which circles right back into court as new misconduct. It's a domino effect with no escape route, and that's exactly why experts say this is the real punishment. The system doesn't need to chase him anymore. It just waits for him to move. Every email, every withdrawal, every meeting is a risk. Even worse, these rules weren't created in isolation. They were crafted after prosecutors studied his behavioral patterns, his temper, his control issues, his money flow. The probation terms are practically tailor-made to hit him where it hurts most: power, privacy, and pride. So while he's pacing his cell, worrying about what comes next, the truth is he's already surrounded. He can't outspend, outtalk, or outmaneuver this kind of watch. But we're not done yet, because what happens after probation might be even worse for him financially. What the government is planning next could strip away everything he's built. Now here's where things get even darker, because even once Diddy finishes that 50-month sentence and steps into probation, he's not free. The real battle begins when the federal government starts tracking his assets, his cash flow, and his companies in real time. See, those probation terms aren't just about behavior. They're about control, economic control. He can't move large amounts of money, can't open new accounts, can't even swipe a new credit card without federal approval. Every dollar spent has to be justified, every transaction monitored. And here's the twist: the government already linked multiple corporate accounts to his past charges. So even if he tries to transfer ownership, dissolve companies, or reroute funds through proxies, it won't matter. The moment those funds touch a flagged account, they can freeze it instantly. This means every luxury, from the cars to the properties, even the brand deals, are under watch. Imagine living your life knowing your accountant, your assistant, maybe even your own lawyer could trigger a government alert by accident. And remember, all this doesn't end when probation does, because the civil suits and the financial audits that stem from these cases can go on for years. Some experts are even saying Diddy could be forced to liquidate parts of his empire just to stay compliant. That's why insiders say he's spiraling, because he's realizing the feds don't need to put him back in a cell to destroy him. All they need to do is make him unprofitable. But here's the part that might finally break Diddy completely, and it's something even his lawyers didn't expect. So here's where it gets wild. Because while everyone thinks Diddy's just sitting in silence, insiders are saying he's been quietly preparing a new appeal strategy, and it's not what anyone expected. Apparently, Diddy's legal team has been debating two desperate plays. The first, claiming that his sentence and probation conditions are too harsh for a non-violent case. The second, and this is where it gets risky, is reportedly built around the argument that media pressure and public narrative influenced his sentencing. Basically, they want to paint Diddy as a victim of fame, that the internet made him the villain before the court could even rule. It's a dangerous angle, especially because it could drag his name back through the media cycle at the very moment he's trying to disappear. And here's the problem: appeals like this are a long shot. Federal judges rarely overturn rulings unless there's clear misconduct, and from everything in this case, Judge Arun's decision looks airtight. The sentencing followed procedure. The evidence was overwhelming. Even the plea deals were verified by independent oversight. If Diddy pushes this too far, he could end up doing the opposite of what he wants, drawing more attention to every sealed document, every testimony, every past settlement. It's like poking the hornet's nest when you're already trapped inside it. Some insiders say that's exactly why his lawyers are split. Half want to proceed, half want to cut losses and hope for an early release. But Diddy? He's not built to sit still. He's built to fight. And that's why the next move he's planning could determine whether he ever walks out with his legacy intact, or loses it all trying to prove a point. Now here's where the story takes a turn that even Diddy couldn't buy his way out of. Because while his legal team scrambles behind closed doors, reports say Diddy's been reaching out to powerful names in politics and entertainment, hoping to call in every favor he's ever handed out. But the response? Sources close to the situation claim Diddy's been trying to reconnect with old allies, executives, moguls, even figures tied to previous administrations, but almost nobody is taking the calls. Some of these people built careers beside him, partied with him, made millions under his brand. Yet now, they're ghosting him like his name itself could stain theirs. And that's the part Diddy didn't expect. Because for decades, he was the gatekeeper, the man you couldn't ignore, the one who made or broke stars. Now those same connections are staying quiet, watching from the sidelines, waiting for his downfall to finish unfolding. Even worse, industry insiders say there's a growing fear that anyone publicly defending him could end up subpoenaed next. The case still has ongoing threads, new evidence, sealed statements, and cooperation deals that nobody wants to get caught inside. So Diddy's alone. phone. For the first time in his entire career, no one's answering when he calls. The empire that once ran on fear and money is collapsing from silence. And if that isolation keeps spreading, if the people he once protected start talking instead of hiding, this might not just be the end of Diddy's career. It could be the start of something much bigger. Because according to a few insiders, federal investigators aren't closing their books just yet. They're watching, listening, waiting for one wrong move. And if that happens, the story doesn't end here. It just gets darker. Now, this is the part nobody's talking about publicly, but it's the part that has Diddy's entire camp shaking. Because according to insiders, the real threat isn't the prison time. It's the people around him who are starting to flip. Here's what's being whispered behind the scenes. Some of Diddy's former employees, assistants, and business partners have reportedly been approached again by federal investigators, not for new charges, but for clarifications. That's legal code for, we already know something, and we just want you to confirm it. And here's the twist. Most of them aren't saying no this time, because the feds don't come empty-handed. They come with paperwork, deals, and protection clauses. And if you're facing possible exposure, the smart move is to cooperate before you become collateral damage. That's why sources are saying it's getting tense inside Diddy's inner circle. Loyalty is expensive, fear is free, and once the money slows down, fear wins every single time. Even some of the people who were once closest to him, the ones who stayed silent when the first wave hit, are reportedly re-evaluating their position. They're watching how harsh the probation terms are. They're seeing that every asset, every account, every phone number tied to Diddy is now under federal observation. And if you're someone who worked under him or benefited from that empire, you have to ask yourself, do you want to go down with him? Because from what I'm hearing, someone inside that circle already made a deal. And once that first domino falls, it's only a matter of time before the rest follow. But wait until you hear what investigators are planning next. Something that could completely rewrite how Diddy's case is remembered. So let's talk about what comes next, because if you thought the feds were finished, think again. According to multiple reports floating around legal circles, prosecutors are preparing something much bigger than just Diddy's probation violations or financial forfeitures. What's being whispered now is that investigators are quietly connecting dots between Diddy's operations and other entertainment entities, not necessarily criminal ones, but those that may have enabled his behavior. Think about that. Studios, management firms, shell companies, and longtime partners could soon find themselves on the receiving end of subpoenas. Why? Because the feds aren't just chasing crimes, they're tracing systems. They're asking, who knew? Who looked away? Who benefited? And here's what's wild. That trail might stretch far beyond music. Remember how Diddy's business empire touched fashion, spirits, media, real estate, and tech investments? Each one of those ventures involves contracts, financial flows, and signatures, and every signature is a thread investigators can pull. It's not about taking down an artist anymore. It's about exposing a network, the kind of network that let one man operate unchecked for years because the money was too good and the silence was profitable. And that's what's terrifying the industry right now. Because for the first time, people who thought they were safe, who thought Diddy's fall couldn't touch them, are realizing the spotlight might swing their way next. As one insider reportedly said, this isn't the end of the story, this is the start of the cleanup. And if that's true, then what's coming next could shake Hollywood, the music industry, and even the corporate boardrooms that helped build Diddy's empire in the first place. Because when the feds start pulling strings this deep, no one stays untangled for long. And here's where the whole thing gets poetic. Because while the world's watching Diddy lose everything in real time, the scariest part isn't the money, or the status, or even the freedom, it's the silence. Think about it. For decades, Diddy lived loud, cameras flashing, private jets landing, parties that went until sunrise. He built a lifestyle where the noise never stopped. But now, every sound is gone. The phones don't ring, the rooms are empty, and the people who once swore loyalty are vanishing one by one. He's realizing something most powerful people never admit until it's too late. When the spotlight fades, the truth echoes louder. And right now, that echo is deafening. People inside his circle say he's pacing, restless, obsessively reading reports, calling lawyers, trying to figure out who flipped. Because he knows the end didn't come from an enemy. It came from the people who used to cheer his name. And that's what breaks him the most. Not the probation, not the restrictions, but the realization that fear only works when people still believe in your power. Now they don't. Because once the system takes your money, your control, your image, the only thing left to take is your legacy. And that's what Diddy's fighting for now. Not freedom, not influence, but a legacy that's already slipping through his fingers. They say karma doesn't miss, and when it comes, it doesn't whisper, it roars. And for Diddy, that roar is echoing through every corner of the empire he built. And that's where we are. The empire that once stood untouchable, now reduced to court orders, probation meetings, and sealed bank accounts. It's It's poetic in a way. The same man who once controlled the culture now can't even control his own schedule. But maybe, and this is where things get real, maybe this is what accountability finally looks like in an industry that spent decades avoiding it. Because for years, power bought silence, fame bought forgiveness, but not anymore. This story isn't just about Diddy. It's about every system that protected him, every person who turned away, every dollar that buried the truth. And now, the truth is all that's left. So as the lights dim on one of hip-hop's most controversial figures, one question lingers in the air. Is this justice, or just the beginning of something even bigger? We'll be watching closely. Before we close out, I just want to say thank you. We're almost at 2,000 subscribers, and it's all because of you. Every comment, every like, every share, it pushes this channel forward. You're the reason Fame Insight is growing into a real voice for truth and accountability. If you want to keep this movement going, hit that like button, drop your thoughts below, and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's hit 10K strong and keep pulling back the curtain on the stories that matter most. This is Fame Insight. Stay sharp, stay aware, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.